East Rutherford at the Giants' first training camp practice at the Quest Diagnostics Training Center. I'm Paul Dottino. He is Super Bowl champion Shaun O'Hara. Shaun, good to see you. And this is real football for a change. They may not be hitting today, but it's real football.
Oh, it smells like football. You can smell the fresh grass. It's great to see players out there running around. It's great to see you. I'm excited. It feels like the start of training camp, and it feels like the season is officially underway. So it's exciting to see these guys out here move around. I know the players are excited to be out on the field. The coaches are excited to be out there finally coaching. But it's great. It's a beautiful day, and we got football.
Now, one of the things you have to keep in mind, today is like what's known as an OTA practice. They're using helmets, they're using shells, but Shaun, they won't actually be in full padded practices until Monday.
Yeah, as you can see right now, I mean, they've been practicing in helmets and jerseys. They've got shells on today. So, it's right now, this is all about getting the players acclimated. They haven't done football the entire offseason. You mentioned it. So you're almost kind of sandwiching all of your OTAs, your mini camp, all of that got sandwiched in that first week. And now these first couple of days, really it's about kind of getting your sea legs underneath you. Now we're doing football drills. Let's make sure that everybody is working well together, everybody's in shape, and we're not going to have anybody falling on each other and bodies on the ground. Football movement it takes time to get used to practicing against other people and pushing people.
One of the things I think the Giants coaching staff is going to be looking for is communication. Because remember, they didn't get all of these 80 players on the field together at once until only a couple of days ago.
This is big, and it helps when you have a guy like that and Saquon Barkley to hand the football off to. But I think that quarterback center exchange before practice that we watched them going through, Jason Garrett was over there. That was always one of my favorite parts of practice because as a center, I got to hear the plays that we're going to practice that day. I got to hear them through the quarterback's mouth and see what he's looking at, listen to Jason Garrett talk about it, and now I know here's where Saquon is focusing on, here's where Daniel Jones is focusing on. So that aspect of it is so paramount for this offense to gain confidence.
And of course, these players really need to get to know each other because there are 40 new faces amongst the roster of 81. It's actually 81 because Sandro Platzgummer is an Austrian running back who is an international exception on the roster right now. He does not count. So the Giants actually have 81 players on the field. 40 of them are new faces that have been signed since the season ended last year, and 14 of those 40 are NFL veterans. So these folks really have to get to know each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of new players. It's a new system, obviously new protocols. For anybody watching the show right now, just so you know, to make it a little easier, defense is in white. So all these white jerseys are defensive players. All of the blue jerseys that you see, those are the offensive players. That will help you. You can notice that there are no names on the back of the jersey. All right, that is team above self right there to the max. So we already saw their first, before they stretched, we saw them do a little walkthrough. Point of emphasis, Paul, was goal line offense, goal line defense. That's such a tough yard. We used to call it the longest yard from the 1 yard line in. But no doubt, those type of game situations are where Joe Judge wants to improve both offensively and defensively heading into the season.
As a player, what do you look to get out of an OTA practice like this when you're only in shorts and shells as compared to a fully padded practice? Or for that matter, Coach Joe Judge says that he wants to have one weekly intra-squad scrimmage where blue is going against white.
Yeah, I think the biggest point of emphasis for practices like this is it's mental. It's making sure you know your assignments and mentally knowing your technique. Regardless of the fact that they're not wearing pads right now, even on the walkthrough, I'm watching the offensive linemen, the tight ends. Everybody's working on their footwork, all right? Make sure my feet are proper. I'm stepping with the right foot on the first step of the play. Make sure my hands are inside. You're working all of those techniques, even though you don't have pads on. So it's the mental aspect of, do I know what I'm doing? Do I know what the guy next to me is doing? And then mentally progressing and saying, what is the defense doing? All right, if they're adjusting, they're moving, they're not just going to sit there. So you've got to be able to adapt together, and you and I have to see the same thing. If the defense moves or shifts, we've got to be on the same page. So all of that communication is going on. The physical part will come later, like you're talking about, with the full padded scrimmages, which are going to happen every Friday starting next week. That will be your chance to crank it up, to dial it up, and your chance to really evaluate guys. Right now, you're evaluating preparation and technique. Those scrimmages will be, we're evaluating, can you play?
This week would have been the preseason opener against the Jets had the schedule held, but because of the pandemic, that's not the case. As a player, do you believe that there'll be more guys, especially younger guys, who would have wished there was a preseason game this week? I know some of the veterans probably don't feel that way.
Yeah, it's really a two-sided coin. If you're a veteran guy, you've been playing the league a long time, the preseason, you're probably happy that you don't have those games and you're not worried about getting banged up. If you're a young guy, yeah, you want those opportunities, you want those chances. We're looking at Leonard Williams right here. He's a guy that has played a lot of football, but I also think he's a guy that's got a lot to prove. So, for him, he wants to get healthy. He's been battling a hamstring injury. He's on the NFI list right now. But for him, you want to get ready for week one. He's not going to miss the preseason games. He might have missed playing against his former team, the Jets. He might have wanted to sack Sam Darnold just to talk a little trash. But yeah, certainly for the young guys, new guys to the NFL, even new guys to this offense and this team, it would be nice to have that preseason game to kind of knock the rust off.
We see there is head coach Joe Judge, and you talk about all of his organizational skills and all of the regimented things that he has brought to this complex since he was named head coach some months ago. And he's impressed every single observer who I've talked to with how everything is exactly on point. He is very detailed.
He's very organized, and the minute you talk to him, you know that he's got a plan. And I think that's a big part of being a great coach is you've got to have a plan, you've got to have conviction about it, and then you've got to get everybody else to buy into it. So he's certainly done a good job of that, and he's had an unbelievable experience as a first-time head coach, given everything that's gone on. I remember listening to him talk about the different color-coded calendars he had throughout the spring based on when they would get the players. So this, I'm sure, is a breath of fresh air. The fact that he's actually with his team physically, everything has been virtually for so long. So as a coach, I know they love being around the players and getting to coach them every single day.
The Giants have 5 holdover coaches from the previous staff, but for the most part, Joe Judge dipped into his background and brought a lot of guys from his past experiences here. They know what he wants, and I think to some degree that should make things a little bit easier. They all seem to come from that Belichick-Saban tree, which is, of course, focused on discipline and preparation.
Yeah, I think that discipline goes hand in hand with the fact that, look, a lot of games are lost and not won, so you can't beat yourself. First and foremost, when you think about, the Patriots and how they've won games, they don't beat themselves. So that's what Joe Judge is really going to try to instill on this team is, look, we can't have mental errors, we can't turn the football over, we can't give up big plays, we have to be accountable, and we've got to find a way to be disciplined in that. So it starts with your preparation, and then every day out on the field, certainly. I think game-type situations is a big part of that too. So always being ready, always being prepared, and then versatility is one thing that he says over and over and over again. So you've got to be versatile, but you've got to be able to adapt within what the defense is doing or what the offense is doing within the game.
We're getting a look right there as the players continue to do some of their drills. These are the defensive backs. They're doing some foot drills with the ball being thrown. Again, the one thing that Joe Judge said the other day, and I thought it was actually very important, he wants all of his players to understand that every move they make is being evaluated. So this looks like a simple drill. And maybe in your head, you're saying to yourself, well, is this really that big a deal? Well, the bottom line is it is.
Yeah, I mean, these type of drills, as a player, you kind of feel like, all right, they're mundane. What's the purpose? It's kind of like Mr. Miyagi asking you to sand the floor, wax on, wax off. You don't realize how important they are until you get into practice and they just become second nature. But, you saw the first drill, them going forward and backwards. Throwing the football into their hands was great for defensive guys as you're coming up on the ball to kind of just practice catching while you're moving. That's not always easy to do.
Let's flip it over to the offensive side, and there you see Daniel Jones entering his second NFL season, number 8, and I have to tell you something. When you look at him, the the first thing that impresses you, besides the fact that he says he's gained about 10 pounds, is that it looks very muscular. It was defined weight, Shaun, and Coach Judge says that will enhance his durability.
Well, I think part of that is because we're so used to watching Eli, and he didn't have any muscle. So for Daniel to come out and, obviously he's got a little more lower body strength.
I think Eli's going to send you a text message on that one.
Yeah, Eli will love hearing that. But I think every player going from rookie year to the second year, they mature, they get stronger. They basically just spend an entire year of working out and developing. So I expect all that. I think that's going to help Daniel. I think the strength certainly will help him hold on to the football, something that he struggled with last year in the pocket with the fumbles. But certainly his arm strength was, on display last year. I thought his accuracy was really good. The leg strength, I think what that'll help him with just is being durable throughout the whole season. We saw him tweak his ankle last year, and I think that's something that he's going to really try to focus on is being strong. But right now, this drill right here, this is pat and go. Basically, it's just quarterbacks loosening up their arms, receivers and running backs and tight ends. Just, it's not full speed. It's just kind of warming up and loosening up the go routes.
Quarterbacks coach Jerry Shaplinski, coming from the Miami Dolphins, again has a background with Joe Judge from their days together with the New England Patriots.
Yeah, nice job with the facial recognition, Paulie. When everybody's covered up with these masks, so it makes it tough. But I know receivers and tight ends love this drill because there's really no defense. You're just you're working on the over-the-shoulder catch, and as a quarterback, you're working on your touch and timing, figuring out, okay, how far out do I need to stretch this ball, and learning how to get a ball to turn over so that it can come over the receiver's shoulder.
Again, the offense in blue today, and the defense is in white. The quarterbacks, of course, in red because you can't hit them. Shaun is doing the red shirt himself because we can't touch him either. But the bottom line is, this is the foundation that every team is going to have to lay during this very strange pandemic offseason as they prepare for game number 1. There will be no preseason games, and to that point, a lot of these guys won't really know how ready they are or how developed they have become until they play those games in September.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This group right here, this wide receiver group, they're going to be a big part of this offense. And it's funny, you kind of look at Sterling Shepard and Golden Tate and Darius Slayton. They all kind of can play outside, they can all play inside. So that versatility factor is going to be big for this group. I think Jason Garrett, he loves to bring guys in motion and create separation with a lot of pre-snap motion. So I think you're going to see a lot of fluid movement between all these receivers.
You'll also notice, Shaun, the Giants did bring in some free agent wide receivers who have size. I think the one thing that was pretty obvious from the receiver room that they brought back from last season is that they were all on the smallish side. Now they've got some guys in here who are 6'3", 6'4". They've even got a 6'7" guy. The bottom line is the Giants now have a mixture of heights, and I think you can tell us from playing with Eli Manning, when he had Plexico Burress, who had height, and when he had Amani Toomer, who had a very long wingspan, or Hakeem Nicks, who had a very long wingspan, that can make a difference to a quarterback.
Yeah, it's definitely an advantage to have a big target like that, especially down in the red zone. This offense, I'm curious to see who that go-to guy is. I mean, right now, if you were to ask me, I would say Evan Ingram. Let me get him out one-on-one in coverage against a safety or a linebacker. That's a mismatch. But
good to see Sterling Shepard out there after last year missing a couple of games, had the concussion issues. Now we go back to defense again. One of the things that I'll be looking for defensively when the Giants are finally able to go through maybe some of the intra-squad scrimmages is how they're going to use their linebackers, because, Shaun, we've talked all offseason about they're going to have to be creative with their pass rush. We know the defensive line is very stout against the run. They proved that last year, allowing less than 4 yards a carry. But these linebackers are going to be very critical to getting after the quarterback.
Yeah, you just saw O'Shane Jimenez, X-Men as you call it, and this is basically a Sam linebacker drill right here, right? Basically, you're standing at the line of scrimmage, 2-point stance. I think that's Kyler Frackel right there, the free agent signing. And
there's Marcus Golden, number
and
44.
You're
Good to
jamming
see
the
him
tight
back.
end right here. You're jamming the tight end, reading run, see the hat placement. This is all about getting your hands tight. That's why you've got that little, see how narrow that pad is? Marcus Golden right here. Look, lock out. You lock out. You see him peekaboo? See him? There's your peekaboo, Paulie. Look, you're looking outside, and then once the running back cuts inside, now you shed and you release. So that's a big part of linebacker play. You want to keep the offensive lineman off you. As an offensive lineman myself, I want to get all up in you. I want to eliminate that space.
There's Blake Martinez, number 54, the import from the Green Bay Packers. You know, each of the last 3 NFL seasons, he was second in the NFL in total tackles for the Packers.
Yeah, Blake Martinez is a tackling machine. I've enjoyed watching him on film the last few years. It just seems like every time somebody's making a play, making a tackle, it's Blake. He's all over the field, sideline to sideline. He's got the instincts like Luke Kuechly. You know, he can come downhill like Bobby Wagner. He's not as big as maybe some Mike linebackers, but man, I tell you what, he always seems to be around the football. He's even gotten involved in some pass rush stuff. You know, I remember watching film in the playoffs against the Green Bay Packers against the 49ers, and there's Blake Martinez standing at the line, getting involved in a twist and getting a sack. So he's very versatile. I think he's going to really be a great leader for this defense. And the Mike linebacker, as you know, Paul, he sets the tempo, sets the mood. I remember playing with Antonio Pierce, and he was always the cowbell. He was always getting everybody lined up, making sure that everybody saw the same things he was seeing. It's a big part of the defense.
You see number 55, David Mayo, right behind Martinez. Mayo, a guy who had experience with Carolina. The Giants picked him up last year. Didn't really maybe know what they were going to get, but he turned out to be very productive.
Yeah, he did. They really like him. You know, he's a thumper, and of course, when you look at linebackers too, Paul, if you're a linebacker on this team, you better find a way to play special teams. That's such a big part of this team. Obviously, with Joe Judge's background with the special teams, every time they sign a guy or they're evaluating a guy, what else can he do? You can't just be a defensive guy. You've got to find a way to contribute.
I think one of the things that we talked about also with Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator and associate head coach the other day, was how are you going to mix those edge rushers and outside linebackers with your defensive ends? Because he's talked about multiple schemes. In fact, he jokes all the time. It doesn't matter if we're 3-4, 4-3, 2-5, or whatever it is up front, because guys are going to have different responsibilities on a week-to-week basis. How important is that for the Giants as we get a look at the tight ends? We go back to offense. Mark Colombo pairing coming over from a Dallas Cowboys team that always wanted to use power football as a staple.
Yeah, right now what they're working right now, Paul, is they're working the fit. There, you can see they're already into the block, so they've taken out the first 2 steps. Watch them dip their hips right here, and then hands inside. There's Evan Ingram doing a nice job. I don't think he gets enough credit for how good of a blocker he is. There's Cam Fleming, number 75. So that's a big part of the run game. If your tight ends can't block, you can't run the football on the perimeter.
I think you guys know who this is, number 26, running back for the New York Football Giants, Saquon Barkley. And if there's ever been a day that he was out of shape, I think it was before his mother gave birth.
Well, no doubt, he's a special athlete, a special running back, and a great person too. So for Saquon, I know last year was frustrating. You know, anytime you get hurt and it's the ankle injuries for a running back, it just never seemed like he fully recovered from that. They end up, you could play, but they're still nagging. You know, and I thought he tried to press a lot last year. This year, I'm really excited for him in this offense. I really think this is going to fit his style of running. You're going to see him 7 yards in the backfield, Paul. You're going to see him in the home position. And I think they're going to be very physical up front. So he should be the focal point. And no doubt he'll be ready.
Oh, I'm sure of that for sure. And we can look at the quarterbacks there again. Some new guys on the depth chart. Cooper Rush and Colt McCoy behind Alex Tanney and, of course, Daniel Jones. We don't know how it's going to shake out. Who's going to be 2? Who's going to be 3? Who's going to be 4? I guess Colt McCoy, with his 5 years of experience with the Washington football team before coming to the Giants, may have the lead on this. You saw that number 33 is Dion Lewis. He is the running back the Giants brought over as a free agent from the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, Dion is an explosive guy. He's obviously dangerous in space. You could see in that drill he was working basically a shotgun run. It was a draw, so I think you would expect to see him a lot on third down. Saquon obviously will probably get most of the first and second down carries, but Dion is definitely a threat. He's a great receiver out of the back. He's got great hands. He's much more of a receiving running back. But you can see too, he's got a thick lower body. He's got some power to him.
Think about Lewis a few years ago when he was with the Patriots, which is where Judge knows him from. He ran for almost 900 yards and 5 yards a carry. So the guy has proven he can run the rock in this league.
Yeah, he's got the skills. He's got the power. It's a great addition to that running back room.
We go back with some more look-ins at the offense. You see, that would be number 5, Cody White. Cody White, an interesting guy because his father was Sheldon White, who played defensive back for the Giants back in the 80s, coming out of Michigan State, a free agent the Giants just signed the other day. We see some of the other guys there. And there's Jason Garrett. Oh, my goodness. We finally got to Jason. And by the way, he looks good in his Giants cap. You'll remember back in 2000, he was a backup quarterback to Kerry Collins on the Giants team that went to Super Bowl 35.
Well, Paul, he looks much better in this blue. That's for sure.
Yeah, than that old Cowboys blue for
I think it's a great addition to this staff, and I think for Daniel Jones, he's really going to be the main benefactor of having a guy like Coach Garrett on the field with him, in the meeting rooms, watching film, talking to him through route progressions and reading coverages. Those things are so important. And also, with him being a former quarterback, he knows, like, hey, look, you got to find out in practice what throws you can make and what throws you can't. So I think for him, working with Daniel Jones, it's going to be great for his growth. And I think for his, obviously, look, he threw more touchdowns last year as a rookie than Kyler Murray, than any quarterback in the league. So the skill is all there with Daniel. It's just all about stacking the fundamentals and stacking the knowledge of things that defense are trying to do to you so that you're not surprised, so that you understand and you can anticipate.
A moment ago, you saw the Giants tight ends, and now getting a look at Daniel Jones as he waits for his next rep. The tight end, always a big component of the Cowboys offense under Jason Garrett. We know what Witten did for years. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame, put up a lot of those numbers against the Giants. And the Giants now, with a very healthy quantity of tight ends, they just have to sort out who's going to do what in this offense.
Well, you look at the Dallas Cowboys, and when they were leading the league in rushing with DeMarco Murray, it was with a lot of big runs out of 2 and 3 tight end formations. When they did it the last few years with Zeke Elliott, you saw multiple tight end formations. And when the Patriots, over the last few years, when they wanted to run the football, they did it with 2 and 3 tight end personnel. So no doubt that's going to be a factor in it. That guy right there, Evan Ingram, you want to talk about an unbelievable athlete at tight end. That guy in space is dangerous. And I got to say, he's wearing the sweetest kicks out there on the field. Those Jordans right now, Paulie, I might have to get me a pair of those. Those are pretty sweet.
Well, one thing we know for sure, and everybody who has known Evan Ingram has told us, he worked out so diligently during the offseason to come back from last year's foot surgery that sidelined him during the final month. And to see him out here doing what he's doing is really a great sign.
Well, he's been a hard worker. I was impressed when he came in as a rookie and people talked about him not being a very good blocker. I think he took that personally. And I tell you, I've seen him grow as a blocker. He's much more physical. Last year, obviously, there was some frustrations at times, but this kid wants to win. I'm a big Evan Ingram fan. I think he's going to have a big season. Obviously, he looks strong. He looks really strong right now. I think he's one of those guys that's going to, with Eli not being there, and now this offense being younger, the longest tenured Giant is Sterling Shepard. So Evan Ingram is going to start to become more of a vocal leader and more of an offensive leader, just, by pecking order.
Bryson John, number 47, catching a pass during one of the quarterback drills. The bottom line, Shaun, and I appreciate the fact that everybody would like to see Daniel Jones's numbers dramatically increase. But if the Giants are going to be successful, then they're going to be a power football team. Well, that means there's going to be a heavy reliance on the run, which may mean that Daniel Jones's numbers don't become pinball machine-like. They just become more efficient.
Well, you know, I just look at what happened with the Dallas Cowboys offense last year. You know, they had Zeke Elliott, really good offensive line. They ran the football a lot, but Dak Prescott had a phenomenal year.
He did.
And, you know, they were the number one ranked passing offense in the league last year. So they didn't do it out of necessity. They did it just because that's what was available. And with the running game that Zeke Elliott brought to the Cowboys, it opened up things in the passing game. So no doubt defenses are going to focus in on Saquon Barkley, and they're going to say, you're not going to beat us by running the football, and you're not going to beat us with that. You're going to have to find a way to throw the ball. So they could challenge them in that capacity, but I think that's why I'm so excited about this offense. I think it's built to be able to adapt to all of that.
Saquon Barkley going out for a short pass. You know, he caught 91 balls, which was a rookie running back NFL record a couple of years ago. Didn't catch as many last season. Obviously, he was a bit nicked up with the ankle injury. Question is, Shaun, how many passes do you think he catches this year in this offense?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see. I think a lot of the catches that he had his first 2 years, a lot of them were checkdowns. A lot of them were short, quick little passes, and it was, hey, everybody's playing deep coverage. We just got to check it down to Saquon and get 3 or 4 yards and move the chains. So those passes may kind of diminish, but anytime you could get him out in space and get him vertical, they're going to want to try to take advantage of that. We talked about the addition of Dion Lewis. That could end up taking away some of the catches and ease the burden for Saquon in the receiving game.
Yeah, the Giants right now have a good collection of guys who have been here before, but also at the same time, they've got some new faces too, and they're really looking for that one big deep threat in the wide receiving core, Shaun, that they're going to try to identify over the course of the next month, because that's the one thing I think that may be missing. They've got the short passes down, they've got the medium stuff down, they've got the checkdowns down, but who's the real deep guy? Is Slayton that guy in year 2?
Well, I think Darius showed his big playability last year. Certainly with the speed, that definitely helps that aspect of it. I think Golden Tate still has a lot left in his tank too, and Sterling Shepard in the slot, I mean, he's been a monster. He's been downright unguardable at times. Obviously last year he had the concussion and he's battled some of that. So I think that when you put all 3 of those guys next to each other in a trips formation, I don't think defenses are looking at that saying, hey, this is going to be an easy day for them. There's a lot of speed out there.
Well, it certainly ought to be a whole lot of fun. We have enjoyed ourselves today at a Giants training camp, watching the first practice and OTA practice in helmets and shells and shorts. But again, on Monday, the Giants will be in full pads for their first full padded practice of the summer. Shaun, it's been a whole lot of fun.
This has been great, Paulie. I can't wait. Let's put the pads on.
For Shaun O'Hara, I'm Paul Dottino. We'll see you next time.